Score Rosenberg podcast coming to you live and direct as we kick back and getting to the dynamics of our guest here, the Honorable Jeffery Jones, former mayor of the city of Paterson, among other things. Marine, father, leader.
Please add grandfather.
Bong. Let's salute. Yeah, let's lift our glass. Let's toast to the Heineken's to that.
Oh yes.
Let's take a break from the dynamics there. Grandfather.
Oh yeah. My strangest thing is my daughter, my wife and I, we had talked to our kids about opportunities, future, progress. They went with us to school where we were obtaining our degrees, and so that they would be familiar, that the fears that I had experienced, the challenges, would not be brick walls for them. So they were both able to, my son, when he was in 7th grade, he tested at college level. So it was fine. My daughter, she was shy.
Let's not be coy about that.
Well,
let's embrace that.
And agreed, fully embrace. But you can have all the talents in the world. You can have all the basic mechanics. You have to decide what and who you are. And I can't make you do it. I can only support your agenda.
Score Rosenberg podcast. Jewels are just dropping out the baskets right now. And when we began the segment off camera, we were talking, and you mentioned a jewel that I said we need to hear.
Well, I don't know if I can espouse it exactly what we talk about, but oftentimes, very often, we are searching for whatever that goal is, not knowing what the end game is. And fear and trepidation, whatever the case is, we fail to seize the moment. And so I encourage folks, you don't have to know what's at the end of the road. Just get on it. I mean, it's really that simple. Get on the road.
Score Rosenberg podcast, the Honorable Jeffery Jones. We're just having a conversation about who he is and what he is. And the jewels are so applicable because a lot of people don't do that. I'm not too sure, so I'm not going to get on the road. Just, this podcast that you're seeing, we got on the road.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's why we're so honored to have you here. So as I begin to dissect and really get into the other ingredients in your story, I'm fascinated by your transition from college into the Marine Corps, your experience through the Marine Corps, and coming out of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I got you.
Because I kind of want to fast forward to dessert.
Got it.
Which would be how you became the mayor of Paterson. What was that experience like? What were some of the wins and falls there? But I kind of want to slowly get there.
Got it. I got it.
So, out of the Marine Corps, what's the next move?
Okay. One thing I need to say, and I think this is so critical. My father and mother were staunch believers that you be conscious of where we are and what you are and how you are. So every time Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would speak, we sat and we watched it.
Riveted.
We had to. But then it became more than just the forced sit and watch it. It became the clarity that we are not free in this condition. And so I have seen and watched and almost memorized many times the speeches, but then I began to understand the real story behind what motivated the speeches. I understood, because as much as Dad and Mom would tell us about what they did, it wasn't real. It was, I still had Dad there, I had Mom there.
Yeah.
But when I saw in black and white, big screen TV in our living room, the old box with the TV that wound up sitting on it with the rabbit ears with the foil.
Yeah. Big shout out to the foil. Big shout out to the foil.
It is.
Thank you for taking me back. No, thank you for taking me back.
That foil worked.
Yeah.
Don't try that foil today though. So the truth about the challenges that people of color, particularly African Americans, were experiencing, it found the place here and here. And so I maybe it didn't formulate itself in such a way that I decided I want to be a liberator or I wanted to be an advocate. I don't think that I had that, but I did not like what I saw. I didn't like what was, and it got reinforced at the church, my church that I grew up in. And
what was the name of the church?
Calvary Baptist Church on 575 East 18th Street. My pastor, then Reverend Dr. Albert Prince Rowe, came from Syracuse and informed us as to our ability as a church and why we need to get education, why we need to do good stewardship, why we need to be part of the community. So, but again, the backdrop, even though we weren't always talking about how we're being oppressed, it was you are oppressed as long as you allow the oppressor to oppress you.
Score Rosenberg podcast. Let's just slow that down because this jewel you need to understand. Could you please repeat that?
Sure. An oppressor is only powerful when we, the oppressed, feel oppressed. And we give into their whim, their word, their discussion, their plan, their strategy. Part of those strategies are liquor stores on every corner, and we buy. Part of their strategies are you can read and write this, that, and the other, but you won't go and learn this, that, and the other. That you would spend all your money on a $50,000 car, and I ain't mad at you, but you're hungry, you're starving, come retirement, you ain't gonna have nothing. So all those things, the oppressor, and obviously it's institutionalized, but you don't have to. And when you think about how urban centers, urban communities, mainly African-American families, were able to break from that challenge, what they did was they made every penny an investment into the church, which became the foundation for educational change and reform, which became the foundation for the civil rights movement, we did it that way, which became the first historically black colleges, university. That's where the seed came from. And so, once you know or have some clarity as to that's how it happens, that's also how you break the chains.
Yeah.
Then what's our excuse?
Score Rosenberg podcast, the Honorable Jeffery Jones, just thank you. Because we need to hear that as a community. Because when you don't understand the impact our dollar have.
Right. Correct. It's green, it's paper, we put it out, we get something back. Okay.
But it has an impact.
It has a tremendous impact.
I want to get into the like where we are now. But before I do that, I am curious to understand: is there someone or something that propelled you into the political, I want to get involved, I want to make an impact? If you can think back.
Oh, I know.
Now.
I know the moment. I actually know the moment. It was the day before I left for the Marine Corps. My father sent me up to a liquor store called Manny's to play his lottery and pick up a pack of Pall Mall Golds. Remember vividly. On the corner of East 19th Street and 11th Avenue, there's a carport.
I know exactly where that is.
Right. There's a carport.
Right in Paterson.
Yeah. 4 guys must have just been released from the county jail. There was a workbench, a barbell bench that was in.
Bench press.
Right. They were wearing the garb, which was khaki pants, white T-shirt, and do-rag, and buffed up. And as I'm walking, it just stuck. Yeah. This is us. This is we. That could be me. So I travel to Spain, Greece, France, Turkey. I chase a man named the Ayatollah Khomeini. Don't know him from a hole in the ground. I go to Japan. I'm in North Carolina. I'm in California. I come back to Paterson 4 years to the date. 4 different fellas. This time, gray sweatpants, white T-shirts, do-rags, busting out.
Push-ups on the same bench.
It was... And it was a lightning bolt through my heart and my spirit. I had 7 fellas who were my brothers in the Corps, and we covered each other, and I knew what brotherhood was. I mean, my blood brothers, yes, I knew that, but this was different, that there were brothers from Saginaw, Michigan, brothers from Florida, brothers from North Carolina. We were each other's keepers. And so I understood brotherhood. And I saw it, these four, they came from the same experience, and they had to get physically strong to fight whatever. I get the metaphor.
Yeah.
And I see 4 years later, the cycle, vicious as it is, doing the same thing. How we break the cycle. I knew about the different elected officials. The church made sure that we, through our pastor, that we got involved in elections. He ran for council. He ran for mayor. And got inspired that change doesn't happen because you sit back and talk about it. You got to do something.
Yeah.
And so I struck out and ran for council. And I forgot what year it was, but we were living on East 25th Street, and I lost. I mean, I didn't even make it to the ballot. I went to homeowners. I tried to be smart. I went to all the homes and rang the bells and said, as the property owner, they probably are registered voters. This is going to work. Well, it turns out property owners aren't always registered voters. And that was so we've got so many roads to cross here. I mean, this.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How is this possible? So I got motivated, and I took the adage that you sit back and complain and get in the game. So I learned a little bit more about it. I started to talk to people. I started to understand about what the issues were, and talk to my family. I'm interested in doing this. Are you crazy? But you're going to do it, we with you. We ride, we die.
Wow.
And that's how we did it. And so with $3,000, we won the first ward campaign. First time in that ward. We moved over there, and I had worked for IBM. I was doing a commute back and forth from Paterson to Southbury, Connecticut for a couple of years. And I just got fed up. I couldn't take the streets. I couldn't take the problems. I couldn't take the decay. I couldn't take it anymore. So I put myself out there. Now, the story could be very different. I could have tried and lost and just quit. I don't know how to do that. I don't know about retreat.
That Marine blood, huh?
Don't know how to do that. I just don't know how to do it. Daddy used to say, I don't care how big he is, you find an equalizer.
Yo, drop that jewel again. What did he say?
Find an equalizer. Brick, bottle, stick. I don't care whether you find an equalizer. So, and then obviously with some training, equalizer doesn't always have to be a brick. Sometimes it's the mind. So.
Score Rosenberg podcast. I love that.
That's
because we, and I say we because when people look at us,
mm-hmm.
they think the only comeback we can have is a physical
mm-hmm.
comeback.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're able to sit back
mm-hmm.
and not react, but act.
Right.
Thank you so much for really dropping that jewel so subconsciously.
Oh yeah.
Because we all have that ability.
I have an 8-year-old grandchild who makes me revisit a lot because she's bright, she's articulate, and Papo. And you can see the mind is going. And so you can fluff it off, you can act like it's not important, she's only 8-year-old, or you can deal with it.
Be aware.
And deal with it and give her some support, some guidance, test to see where she's at, see where her thinking is. Stuff that, my parents were struggling, but I don't have to do that. I can talk to her. And so that's what it's about. And, I'm seeing that some folks are actually rising. They're saying that the best dish to serve is opportunity, conversation, and support.
Score Rosenberg podcast. So, that's the dish we're serving here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's exactly the dish. So as I get to appreciate, and if you notice, and I'll be very straight up with you, as we get ready to wrap on the segment, my curiosity
mm-hmm.
wasn't really a political one.
Okay.
It was more about what it took for you to be where you are right now. And as I take this break, when I come back,
mm-hmm.
I want to close with this chapter, the political contribution and the impact you're making right now on this world. And I have this question that I ask all my guests.
Sure.
Which I'm not going to tell you what it is now, but I'm just going to drop it at the end.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty sure you're going to be profound about it. But SQR podcast, the Honorable Jeffery Jones, former mayor of Paterson. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and wrap with where we are and the impact he's making right now in this world. One. Rosenberg podcast as we get back into this meal. And I use the term meal because as I dissect every fragment or every segment, you know, I'm fascinated in learning more about who you are and the things that have propelled you in this direction. As we continue this journey, we finish through the Marine Corps. We go through now being involved and being aware of your traveling experiences and coming back and seeing the same guy, different guys, but the same scenario,
Right.
and wanting to make a difference.
Yes.
And you run for councilman,
Right.
first ward.
Right.
You lose.
Fourth ward, I ran and lost. Moved to first ward, ran and won. Right.
And you now are propelled to, I'm going to take a giant step here, to run for mayor, city of Paterson.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. Was that your ultimate goal?
No. Being mayor was never even a consideration. I was trying to serve. I mean, my bachelor's degree is in criminal justice with
Okay.
a minor in sociology. I obtained my master's in urban education with a concentration in community-based services. And my mother was and is one of those people who believes that you've got to give back. So seeing what I saw, I was a DIFAS worker, child abuse and neglect. I was an FSS3. I ran the Boys and Girls Club. I was a youth director of education there. So, you know, the recurring theme was that we're broken. I mean, there's no way to talk about it. We're broken.
No, I respect the honesty.
Yeah, we were a broken city. We had 400 plus churches. We still do, or we had about 300 something churches. We have 400 churches. Yet, the spiritual essence of the city is, I can't even tell you where it is. I can't quantify. I can't qualify it. But we have a lot of churches, and usually, at least I'm believing that where you have a lot of churches, that spirituality, that faith, that many of these challenges we face should have been arrested, should have at least been underscored, highlighted, reduced, minimized, eliminated, at least I think. Yet, the problems from my childhood remain. When I was a kid, just say no. Well, we said no. And we said no to a lot of things. We said no to bad politics. We said no to slums. We said no to the inequalities. We said no to all of that stuff. We said no to a lot of stuff that didn't change anything. Our leaders oftentimes were waylaid into all kinds of nonsense. We, as the people, we bought the nonsense.
Profound.
Yeah. So the evolution, it didn't occur. Now, mayor was not this epiphany that happened to me one day. It wasn't that.
Because I'm curious to what was that light bulb going off moment?
Oh, it was a light bulb, right? It was exactly this. I had done council at large, and I realized that on the council you can't move an agenda. It was that simple.
So for the layman, when you say an agenda,
right? My agenda as mayor, my agenda as council, my agenda as council at large, my agenda as an advocate for parents whose kids were not receiving a thorough and efficient education. I'd go and I'd advocate. I'd sit with the principal and the parent, and I'd question the IEP. I'd question why they're failing. It is that my child, my children, my nieces, my nephews, all my cousins one day could experience some of the things I experienced. Now, let me tell you, my life in Paterson wasn't always a bed of roses. I got stopped by the police as a child walking from 11th Avenue to Eastside Park. The police officer asked me what I was doing in the neighborhood. Years later, I buy a house 2 blocks from that location. Walking with my granddaughter, I go, and it hit me. That's where that cop stopped me. He had no I wasn't doing anything. I was a skinny kid walking. But he stopped me, asked me what I was doing in the neighborhood. At that time, it was heavily Jewish. So I was out of place. All these things were, they were choking me.
And as you experience this, your fuel to propel you, you know, say, because you said being a mayor was not on your agenda.
No. I used to be a shy guy. I was really shy.
What's so funny?
I was a shy guy.
I passed you many times in City Hall. A shy guy isn't the energy I pick up from you.
No, I was a shy guy. I was a house mouse. I was. That's why I said my brother was my big guy. He was my guy because I wasn't that guy. I wasn't social. I didn't know. I was afraid to talk to girls. I didn't know any of that stuff. I wasn't that guy. I was a guy who would sit back and figure stuff out. I don't know how I did it or why. But I was also a very passionate guy. Whatever I believed in, I believed in. And I might have been wrong, and probably a lot of times I was. But I was convinced from, again, the people who were in my life and leadership, the people I believed were true to what they believed in. And listen, I got disappointed by a lot of them. A lot of them who would profess one set of things and did something else. There was a whole lot of that. But I stayed my course. I don't take what's not mine. I have no reason to lie, and so I don't. I may exaggerate the truth in terms of a story, but hey, I'm good.
I love the way you added some what's the word I'm looking for in the
colorful.
In the culinary world, they call it like a garnish.
Yes.
Around the
some embellishments, but listen, I have no intention to deceive you, and part of my truth serum is, at 18, I was responsible for the lives of 33 men. That was my task. Some looked like me, some didn't, but I was responsible, so I understood responsibility. But I always understood that where I came from was broken. That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And when you travel the world and you travel parts of the U.S. and you see progress, well, is it us? Is there a DNA failure going on? Listen, I was a deep thinker from before, but now I learned how to focus my thinking. So Mayor wasn't that. Mayor was part of disappointment. It was disappointed that there were folks who was representing the city and we couldn't get an agenda together. The agenda, and I'm African American, and if I met with 6 people, I'm going to be labeled as dealing with just black folks. That's not what I'm doing. The guy who saved my life wasn't black. The guy whose life I saved wasn't black, always. But, we cast that dispersion is often cast.
I wanted to jump into that real quickly, and thank you for breaking the yoke on that, because I am curious to understand, not when you were propelled isn't the right word, when you made the transition into running for mayor. I want to go microscopic on this journey.
Okay.
Who or what was the thought that said, let me go run for mayor?
Well, it didn't.
If you could remember.
Yeah, it didn't actually go, let me run for mayor. It was more along the lines of, I understand Faulkner, which is the law of the land. I understood ordinances and resolutions, having served on the council. I was aware, I knew it. I had the background in criminal justice. I had been teaching at the university, criminal justice and public safety and a bunch of other things. So, and so I was aware, and I was very conscious that while the system is broken, it is the system we have. So at the council, we had gone through a transition where we were moving from one mayor of one atmosphere moving upward, and now it was in the hands of the minorities, the people.
Mm-hmm.
And the then mayor, Marty Barnes, who took over after Bill Pasquarello jumped over to Assembly, he had his plan, his agenda. He wanted to get some things done. We didn't always agree, and I never curved my tongue. I never would disrespect him publicly, but listen, we ain't on the same page, homeboy. That's just this ain't that thing. And obviously, I was not always liked because people thought, you messing with Marty. No. I come from a different place. My place is I'm worried about me and mine. I mean, it's that simple. It's me and mine. And when I say mine, I'm not talking about just family. I'm talking about people I know, people who knew me from all those programs. I had 2,800 kids at Boys and Girls, about 1,800, 2,800 kids at Boys and Girls Club. I was responsible for their after-school program, their recreation, their educational support, their parents. I coached baseball for 8 years as the head coach. So I'm vested.
You're in it.
I'm vested. I left this place. I traveled the world. I saw the world. I came back. We were stuck and stupid. So I didn't need anybody to tell me you are, but they did tell me it ain't your time. And I listened to somebody one time, Bill Klein, who was on the council. Marty was going to run for mayor, and rest his soul. And he told me it's not your time. And him and Bill, Marty and Bill, ran for mayor. And told me it wasn't my time. And I decided at that point in time, nobody will ever tell me again
When it's your time.
when it's my time. So it was faith more than anything, and I'll say that without an equivocation, it was faith. I believed that my path, my destiny, my purpose was to at least put myself out there. Not the victory. I didn't know what the victory was going to be, but put myself out there. I had heard people tell me, you should run for mayor, and I was like this, and of course my parents and family's like, they say that to everybody, The family was like, are you sure? I'm like, what am I going to do? I mean, I was sort of raised for this. I was born for this, I think. And so the echoes got louder. The support came. Woke up that day and we won. And I'm like, oh, snap! Oh, snap! But there was an agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, there was definitely an agenda.
Was it just like that wow moment, like you couldn't believe?
Oh, yeah, it was. I cried at St. Luke's Church when I forgot the pastor who did the pre-inaugural ceremony. There was some words he said that touched me because when folks invest in you and they give you their lives in terms of control and support and the hope, I mean, I was overwhelmed. I teared up. I couldn't hold back the tears. Obviously, things do happen, but I was on a mission. This was a simple mission, and it was maybe I should have sent the memo out to everybody else, but I was on a mission.
Wow.
The mission was for us to be what I believed we could be. I mean, and when I say agenda, that's what I mean. I had no intentions to rise to another level. That was my agenda. Are you kidding me? First of all, half the people you talk to want to stab you. The other half want to kick you.
Yeah.
It's clear.
What do you take?
It's clear.
Wow.
And then those who love the idea, I mean, there's still hope. I mean, I was perceived by many of the seniors as their grandson, the hopeful grandson they had in their eyes, by mothers whose sons might have been incarcerated, by sisters who lost a brother. I mean, I felt it.
Yeah. You represented all that. As we're dissecting this movement, and thank you so much for being so microscopic with regards to that experience and, finding out that day. Can I go back to walking into City Hall?
Sure.
As the mayor.
Oh yeah.
Did you have a pinch myself moment?
It was the night that the tally came in, and I dropped to my knees. We were at the church on North First Street. Reverend Stafford Miller was.
I know exactly where the church is.
And when we had won, I was shocked. I was shocked. Because you can't know that a population is going to vote for you, because that's pretty much saying that they believe in what you had espoused. You cannot imagine that next morning, because I didn't know how it plays out. There was no rule book. There was nobody who would explain to me, okay, if you win,
this is what you do.
right. So that night, after we win, we leave Reverend Stafford's church. We come down to City Hall. There's a mob of people there. I think we had a headquarters at the restaurant down the street. We did. Our headquarters was down the street. I mean, there were people that I had never seen before. They're there. My wife, my kids were there, and I'm concerned for them because I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people here. And there's a line of police motorcycle vehicles there. And this is the formal or informal way of passing the baton, because even though there was a mayor, you're the new mayor come July 1. And okay, now the head has to be screwed on, because what just happened?
Wow.
So we're ushered into an SUV and we're taken down to Jacksonville. And they announce it. Everybody that's in Jacksonville, they're clapping, and I'm a little bit like, what's going on? What's next? Because again, there's no.
But this is what you ran for. This is what you.
No.
This is what you.
I didn't run for the adulation. I didn't run for any of that stuff. I ran to be able to sit at the desk and do the work, get the work done with a team. That's what I ran for. I didn't know about the pomp and circumstance. I didn't know. That's not my thing. I don't do pomp and circumstance. I don't do it well at all. When we did the ball, it was overwhelming. I mean, it was 600-700 people at the Venetian. I told my son as we were riding there, man, they must have a couple of events here tonight. He said, Dad, they're here for you. And I'm going, what? And it was like, oh, really? We walk in, they're there for the inaugural ball. And I'm what? So, it didn't take long to get adjusted, but it was a punch you in the gut kind of moment. It was.
Wow.
It was that.
Score Rosenberg podcast, as we sit here with the Honorable Jeffery Jones, former mayor of the city of Paterson, dissecting those moments that everybody want to hear, experience that walk, and thank you so much for being so detailed. And I'm going to take a break, and this is where we're going to come to the extended VIP hour.
Okay.
Because when we come back, I want to go into, now you're in. I want to hear some of the wins and losses you experienced.
Okay.
While you were in.
You got a BC powder because I'm a D one.
Yeah. We'll be back right after these messages. SQR Podcast, Jeffery Jones, Paterson, former mayor, 1. SQR Podcast, the honor, the pleasure I've had to learn or know the Honorable Jeffery Jones, former mayor of the city of Paterson, is, I consider myself blessed because everybody sees the pomps and circumstance that comes with being the mayor. I am honored to be able to sit here and just dissect your life and hear your story and just really understand that behind the mayor title, there's a human being who's dealing with the realization that, oh shit, I'm a mayor right now.
Right.
And I have seen you, I'm going to be very honest with you, I've seen you running around while I was going through Paterson doing, what I do for a living. And I'm always fascinated by, this guy who's running around with, the security and, doing this and doing that. And I just couldn't understand, where that came from, and from the person looking in, it's like, wow, I'm now here sitting with you, hearing your story. So let me just speed up a little bit. And as we get ready to go through the last segment, I'm fascinated by, now you're mayor, now you're dealing with mayor stuff. And I'm trying to be diplomatic when I say stuff.
Come right out and put it out there.
You're dealing with mayor shit.
Right.
How did you handle the losses? Because you hear the stories out there, you read it in the paper, you're out there, you're now in the position, you're not expected to turn Paterson into this booming city.
Mm-hmm.
The road issue, the bullshit that came along, how did you handle that?
Well, some will say we didn't.
Preach on that.
Okay. In the transition from one administration to another, your department heads and your team meet with the existing department heads, and you kind of get a good sense as to what is and what isn't, as best you can. Budget, staffing, priorities. I mean, you better do that. And it's sort of a revealing. And they call it a book. And we transition one book to another, from one administration to another. And it's our goals, our objectives, our plans. And obviously, the incoming administration doesn't have to accept, abide, listen, or care. But it is your story, and that's what I received from the previous administrator, some of the things he had done and wanted to do. And you take them, and we went through and we saw things that we thought were of value, and we use those, and others we incorporate our own. So the challenge in Paterson was and is that we were underpaid, underfunded. We have a declining tax base, which pretty much means that of the 23,000 tax-paying properties, businesses, and all the rest of them, the largest share of the burden was on the property owner, the homeowner.
Which is kind of crazy considering how much industrial, commercial properties and
from
your basis there just seems to be off.
Exactly. So the myth is that every building is paying their fair share, and it's not true. Most of the buildings, this building we're in right now, in its heyday, may have been paying market rate and whatever the tax implications were. But during the decline of the economy and other things, when other businesses exited, then the footprint that this building has, which you would say, okay, well, they should still be paying their taxes. No. They are able to go and present a case that says, no, we're not at full value. And that's AKA the tax appeal. And then, or an abatement, or whatever the instrument is. And so instead of, let's say the example is them paying $16,000 per quarter through the process, they're paying $5,000. So you multiply that by many of these buildings, and by buildings I mean corporate type, or they pay their fair share, but they do the tax appeal because the tax rate, the tax burden is off kilter. They wind up getting back $600,000 at the end of the year, but you as a taxpayer or property owner, you don't get that back.
Yeah, true.
So you also had the, and something I really couldn't understand nor appreciate, Paterson's police and fire departments represented 14% of our budget. That's quite significant. And yet,
what's the typical representation in other municipals' budget across the U.S.?
I'm sure that police and fire are always the lion's share of any budget. It's just what they are, 24 hours a day. You have 5 and 2, the schedules of their work, police cars, equipment, training, all of that. So it's a heavy burden. But for safety, we say, who cares? I want that. Do you get it? Well, that's another story. It's debatable. So you've got police and fire, public safety at 14% of your budget. You've got Public Works, who are just as instrumental, and oftentimes we don't see that, but have a strike, have garbage piled up, have roads with potholes, have snow removal.
Like we had, that Market Street, that street from, it's not Market, it's driving across from, when you cross where Passaic Community College is on the right.
College Boulevard.
That whole street right there, that was just crazy during, a couple winters ago where the road was just deplorable.
And right, okay, so perfect segue. So Public Works guys and gals do garbage, recycle, and every other little oddity that the public deems
Quality of life
right,
stuff.
Quality of, even better. And yet they were making some $15,000 a year. That's just not possible. But they have a union who negotiated that for years, and they've been getting, you go, what are you talking about? You're grown men with families. I can make $15,000 a year. But if you're desperate or whatever the case is, and you agree to it. So our goal was, one of our agenda items was to bring that component of quality of life to a fair, meaningful wage. Base level, $25,000. And of course, we have to negotiate that. But I've got to have you at least $25,000 a year. Now, of course, again, if you're not bringing new businesses, you're not bringing all that in, how do you do this?
Where's the money come from?
You seek grants, you seek everything you can. And one of the things we were trying to do was the Municipal Utilities Authority, I don't know where you know that the falls are.
Yeah.
It's a hydroelectric plant. So my goal was, and I hope any prospective mayor or anybody else who's thinking, who's listening to this, I figured it out. It's really quite simple. If every household, every home had solar panels on it, and since we own it, and it is a part of the Board of Public Utilities, it's its own entity like PSE&G, then all of the energy that is collected through solar, we route it through there. We don't have to pay PSE&G. We are our own energy company. We transition the guys from Public Works to become maintenance and installers. We create a new economy. And then we hire or lease out Public Works to a company, if you will, hold them to a different standard. We don't have to worry about negotiating these kinds of things. But, and I met with Nautilus. Nautilus offered, it was embarrassing. They were talking about $180 million, but not to us. We were going to get a one-time shot of $18 million. That, you must be out your mind. Now, I already know I own the utility authority. I own it. We, the city, own it. I already know that solar panels on roofs, and now the state's giving away solar panels to New Jersey.
They are, which they are.
So we would have been making, every time the sun is up and hits a solar panel, that's energy. PSE&G bought it, would be buying it.
Yeah,
and then
because you're dumping back on their system.
Into their grid, and they got to pay us for it. And then we would also get the SRECs. So that was the plan. That was the goal. That's why we went to India. We went to India to find out about the production of solar panels to get that here. But part of the challenge of being a mayor is you can express your vision. And as soon as you do, members of the council who want you to see others are going to do what they can to stomp that dream.
Which is kind of counterproductive because...
Ain't no kind of in it. There ain't no kind of in it. It is abysmal, but it's also what we see in state level politics, federal level. So
you're pushing these agendas, which is going to be beneficial to not only residential, but to the whole community of Paterson on its own. And, we're dealing with these budgets and we're dealing with the adjustments of everything. And, as a layman, driving around and I'm losing a tire when I hit this pothole, and as the mayor, how did you deal with those complaints?
Well, listen, I was blessed and fortunate to have been able to meet and hire, and he accept the position, Christopher Koch, as the Director of Public Works. And it was the first time the city of Paterson had employed a person who actually had an engineering degree.
For that position?
Really? Young Jamaican.
Oh, big up my youth.
And he, born and raised in this town, loved the city, had the right spirit, and was willing to take the cut from his previous job, which was railroad construction company. And he saw it, and he wanted to do the work. And all the directors were aware, you run your shop. I don't need to run your shop. I got other things to do. You run your shop. And so what he did was he advocated for them to get salary increases, to get them trained. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. One of the things we tried to do was, instead of the city contracting outside folks to do the work, if we train our guys at Public Works to do the masonry, the carpentry, and other stuff, then you would pay, right. But these are all visionary stuff that you have to be in office a while in order to move.
Implement.
Right.
Yeah.
But the savings would have been immeasurable. The solar MUA construct alone should have amassed us upwards of a couple $100 million on our own, our control. But you got to get there. You got to negotiate with the board of the MUA, who is an autonomous agency. They were open. We went to India together. You then got to convince the council where you're going. We already had a conversation with PSC&G. We already talked to Nautilus and a couple other energy providers. We had done the due diligence, but we weren't ready to pull the trigger yet because we had some other things to do, because I needed to transition Public Works guys. And believe me, there's training, there's some education involved. So it's not here's my idea, let's do it tomorrow. This is some planning. This is to make sure everybody's on board. And this is also to ensure that your adversaries, who could be at the state level, representing your city, could be at the county level, representing your city, could be at the federal level, representing your city, aren't trying to undermine your efforts.
But let's get real on this.
Okay.
Your term is 4 years.
It's a 4-year term. You got 2 years to get the work done.
That's impossible.
Yeah, that's the way it works. When you accept that task,
That's what you're telling me sounds like it needs a 4 to 8, 10-year.
Yes. Without
No,
question.
seriously.
No, without question.
No.
It's an 8-year run.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just jump past that, because it just sounds like this slippery slope that you were told to climb to
Okay.
accomplish this. And as I get ready to dissect this, I wanna ask you this. So here you are with these great ideas, these innovative ideas to really implement these things, but then you're getting a lot of crap shoveled your way. You know.
Well, you mean the $76 million budget deficit we inherited?
Number one.
Let's put it out there.
That I'm also, this overtime bullshit, overtime, whatever. What's the word I'm looking? What's the adjective I'm looking for here? This whole thing that came within the news about this overtime.
It was political. It was all political. It was all political. And I stand today, and the reason that I can sit here as the honorable is because there was never a criminal. Because you notice that there was never ever the word.
Unlike my boy who's actually.
Right. And others. But we as a public, no, I can say it. We as a public, we like sensationalism. So we do. And we were in the paper for 19 straight weeks.
It was a lot of publicity. It was a lot of publicity.
And it was designed to undermine my reelection. And it wasn't about anything we had done. It was about me not continuing because there was a different agenda for Paterson, and I wasn't on board with that agenda. Now, I didn't know what it was, but I'm not on board with it. When I took the roles of mayor, I'm in charge. I got that. I understand that. But you're supposed to kiss rings. You're supposed to do that. That ain't me. So that's where that comes from. So, and I just want to, because you opened this can, FEMA, which goes into Federal Emergency Management Agency. I read the standards. You can read the standards. 22 other cities did the same thing, whereas directors were compensated for work during the emergency. It's allowed. The process is an emergency comes, you expend the labor. You then have to justify it. So the city pays it out. We pay you the overtime. We pay for all this, and that's part of the process. But the federal government doesn't reimburse you. They pay you 75 cents on every dollar you spend. You have to justify it. And they send someone and go, who's that? What did they do? What's the proof? So we were aware, I was keenly aware that, the directors could submit the overtime, but the press and those who were engaged and wanted to undermine understood that the sensitivities of many of the folks in the public would be, oh, they're stealing, because we had gotten attuned to stealing. No, you ain't steal. And again, I say, where's the cuffs at Jeff Jones? Where's the indictment for Jeff Jones? Where's the criminal action? There was no, and still won't be any. Why? Because they found out that they can play us like a spinning top. And we still buy it. We still buy it. So the checks, and that's the thing that cracks me up. There's an employee, don't know who it is, but there was an employee who obviously was involved, engaged, or supporting a different candidate. And I got it. It happens. It's part of the game. And they decided once those checks or the timesheets were submitted, now I was not aware of it, and I was thankfully vindicated by that, but I was not aware of that, and I have no reason to. I don't sign timesheets. It's not my thing. I have staff for that. But this person decided that they were going to, once they saw it, and I guess it's okay, I ain't got no malice against you, they faxed it to the press. Okay, I got it. My answer remains my answer. The law doesn't say that, even the mayor, it doesn't say he can't receive it, but I understand I'm a full-time salary person, so I'm not entitled to any other compensation. I understand that. But the law is so ambiguous. And then I think on the third or fourth day, other cities, 22 others, were found out to have done the same thing because it's ambiguous. But in their communities, you didn't see this 19 days on the front page. You didn't see that. And that's what we do. When people want control, sometimes we give them that control by getting caught up into some kind of mess, like the current mayor.
Yeah. I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah. That's totally different.
No, because it seems like you know that when people would have an ulterior motive, they kind of push this agenda to get what, so, okay, all right. So, Squirrel Rosenberg podcast. My God, this is getting so interesting right here. I have to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I want to wrap. I'm going to wrap with this. I want to wrap with the two profound questions I always ask my guest.
Sure.
And I know you're going to hit this for a home run. So let me take a quick break.
I might just bunt it.
SQL Podcast, Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, the Honorable Jeffery Jones. One.
So you don't have to get out the van. Everybody just stay put, and we're going to leave in a minute, okay? And then out of nowhere, you hear, what's he doing? Obama had got out his vehicle, walked without Secret Service, went under the barricade, and started hugging, loving on them people over there. And they were all up in it. And all you saw was people scrambling. Secret Service,
to get over
I
there.
got out the van.